In this updated video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to take cuttings from a thornless blackberry, propagate them yourselves, get free plants, and I'll show you what I've done over a 6-month period and where I am at the moment, and I'm pretty happy with the results. G'day everybody and welcome to my Aussie gardening kitchen. If it's your first time here, my name's Darren, but please call me Daz. And in today's video, I'm doing the second video in my Propagating Blackberries video series. Now what I've got here is I've got a couple of my blackberries that I propagated 4 weeks ago. Now what I did was I took cuttings, probably about that big, and I took those from one of my plants. And as you can see here behind me, I'm going to be planting 7 of these cuttings in a row and having a long row of blackberries. And it runs all the way down to the end back here. And I'm going to have a row of blackberries growing on this side, thornless blackberries. And I've got grapes growing here on this side here, and the plan is to have the grapes come up and over the top in an arch and then have the blackberries on this side here. Now there's 2 examples here. The blackberries that I propagated in my previous video, and as you can see they're quite healthy and I've got a really good root system. I've already checked them, and what I will do in a minute is I'll actually take them out of the pot and show you the root systems. So pretty much what I'm going to do is just take them out of the pots, stick them into the ground. Now the ground I will amend because it's just an orange sandy soil here. So I'll make my own compost here. I'll be mixing my own compost with some of that soil, and I'll put a bit of blood and bone fertilizer in with that, and that should be good to go. And these guys will just go straight into that, water them in, mulch them in, protect them from the dog and the chickens, and we're good to go. So when I propagated these guys, there was a couple of things that I learnt from doing it and watching the progress. So I'll talk about that in a second. All right, so I'll take one of these guys out of the pot, get this one out of the way. All right, so we'll take this guy out of the pot and we'll have a look at the root system. You'll be able to see some of the roots. I don't know if you can already see them here. And there's fine roots all the way through here. Now what I found when I propagated these is that when I cut them from the plant, I dipped these in rooting hormone. Just the bottom where you cut them, dipped that in rooting hormone, pushed a hole into the soil with my finger, and then just dropped it into the hole and then closed the hole back up. Now the reason I poked a hole is that if I'm putting rooting hormone on the end of something and I go pushing it into the soil is going to wipe off that rooting hormone. So I like just to push in a hole, drop it in and then close it around it, and then hopefully that rooting hormone stays all over the piece of plant that you've put in the ground. Now what I did find, that roots did start to come out of the bottom of the canes, but what I did do was I planted at least one of the buds. Now as you can see up the stem of this one here, you've got buds here, here, obviously down here, and up a bit further where this growth is. So what I did was at the very bottom of it, I actually buried 2 of the buds. And then what has happened is those 2 buds have actually sent out roots way better than where it was cut at the bottom and the plant was exposed from the cut. So in future, I'm definitely making sure that whenever I do more cuttings of these, I'll be planting this into the soil with at least 2 buds under the ground, because on every single one of these that I've checked, they've rooted from the buds way more than the cut down below. So I think the biggest tip I can give for when propagating blackberries like this is to have 2 buds down the bottom, buried under the soil, because they just took off and I'm really, really happy. Okay, so I don't want to be playing with the roots too much in this, but you can see we've got some nice fine roots coming out here like that. And if I turn it around, you can see nice white roots coming out here, fine roots here. There's a whole bunch of them out of the bottom here. So it's absolutely fantastic. I'm so happy with this. And they're all pretty much looking like this. You can't go wrong. All right, so hopefully in this shot here, you'll be able to see where the buds have come up. There's 2 buds. If I can just turn it slightly. 1 bud here, and there's another bud over the back here. And those shoots have actually come up from 2 of the buds that were under the ground. Absolutely wrapped. Really happy with this. All right, so if you look at this plant here, this is the actual plant that I took these cuttings from. And if you can imagine, this plant that you're looking at now looked like this 1 year ago. So what happened was, with my original plant that I've got over in the yard a bit further over here, I took a single cutting from the end of it that was about this size, planted it here in the orchard, and now look at it, it looks fantastic. And if you've seen my previous video on propagating these blackberries, you'll see how much this plant has actually improved over the last month or so. Now, what's really cool about some of these is that they're actually fruiting. Now, with a blackberry, they're similar to some of the raspberries, where what actually happens is they'll grow a cane in the first year and there's no fruit. Then in the second year, that cane will produce fruit. But these ones here, they're producing fruit and they're only just going into the ground. Now, I suspect that's because I've actually taken those cuttings from year-old canes already. So those canes have gone into the ground and propagated, and I guess maybe they're thinking, hey, I'm already a year old, so I'll just start fruiting. So I thought that was pretty cool. Now, for the growth and development of the plant, you really don't want them to flower and fruit this early, so you're better off picking off the flowers straight away and really promoting the growth of the roots and the plant itself, and not worry about the fruit at this stage. So just to recap, what I've done is I've taken cuttings from the blackberry plant, a thornless blackberry, and what I've done is two methods. I've taken a cane and I've cut it off and I've planted those canes into some soil, and what's happened is I've put some rooting hormone on the base of some of them, and some that didn't have it have also gone into the ground. But more importantly, what I've discovered is that they have buds, and I've actually planted some of those buds under the soil as well. And those buds have shot out a lot more roots. So I'm pretty happy with the cuttings, with the buds going in the soil. That worked really well. The other method I did was that I had a cane and I bent the tip down into soil and got roots to grow out of that tip where the little bud was on the end. And that worked okay as well. But I definitely think I prefer cutting the cane and burying the little buds, maybe two buds, under the soil and trying to promote the growth of the roots out of those buds. It really has worked well for me. Then what I've done is, after a couple of months of sitting in a pot, those little cuttings have now grown and they've developed roots down the bottom. Really nice root ball actually. And I've taken those and I've transplanted those into the garden, and I've used an organic compost that I make here, mixed that up into the soil and given them a bit of a head start with some blood and bone. It's a good fertilizer to use. And yeah, there we are. We're now at the stage where they're growing quite well. And I would say next year, at the end of this year, 2022 for me at the moment, I'm probably going to be looking at some really nice canes all in that row. So thumbs up, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with the whole process. So after this, I do recommend it. Check out my original propagating blackberries video and also my gardening playlist, and they'll pop up at the bottom of the screen right now. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.